Taoiseach, I want to return to the issue of government waste. The Comptroller and Auditor General's annual report is published today, and it makes for pretty damning reading in terms of lack of due diligence in the awarding of iPass contracts, and it confirms a concern that we've had for quite some time in relation to profiteering and lack of accountability in the awarding of iPass contracts, lack of due diligence, gaps in payment controls, no contracts for properties, over billing and overpayments to companies, in one case to the tune of €7.4 million. And truth is that under this government, a small number of private operators have been allowed to make millions from the public purse. The state is due to spend €1.2 billion on the awarding of these contracts this year, and I have to say to you that it is very worrying. I want to know, Taoiseach, how you stand over this. It's happened on your watch.
Well, first of all, just join the Ceann in welcoming the active group from Middleton. And Ability West. I have a strong fondness for Middleton women. I married one of them.
You're getting yourself in trouble, Taoiseach.
I know, yeah. But in any event, could I say to the Deputy, first of all, in terms of the bike shed you referenced earlier, Minister Moran is saying that the approximate cost for the actual bike shed is around 32,000. There's a lot more else going on there. In terms of the iPass, that report was circulated today, and we do need to examine it. We have transferred responsibility for migration and iPass centres from the Department of Children to the Department of Justice. There was huge pressure over the last number of years in respect of the migration system, which did necessitate urgent responses by the Department of Children in terms of location and securing of places on an emergency basis. But we will examine that report, and certainly our aim is to reduce costs significantly, get better value for money. And the Minister of Justice has taken a number of initiatives designed to do that.
Deputy Ivana Batchy.
Taoiseach, Daft.ie reports today that the asking price for a home is now nearly 40% higher than pre-pandemic levels, and meanwhile 5,145 children are in homelessness. Last Friday's figures showed again a new shameful record, with the creeping up of the numbers in homelessness, a new record being set every month. Taoiseach, every day we all hear from people with good jobs, many of them with two incomes, couples with two incomes, who are giving up on trying to buy a home, because they simply have no prospect of being able to get a mortgage or being able to afford to buy a home. The Land Development Agency chairperson has estimated that as many as 70% of workers in Ireland are effectively priced out of the housing market, both for renting and for purchase. Taoiseach, in next week's budget, you must make a meaningful dent in the national response to the housing emergency. We must see a real plan for increasing supply of housing. But our concern is that your budget is going to simply set more fictitious goals, as fictitious as the numbers Fianna Fáil gave us in the general election campaign on housing delivery last year. So can you assure us there will be a real plan in place to build more homes?
Just to make a point, those prices are very high, too high for many, many young people. That said, since 2020, notwithstanding COVID, about 148,000 new houses were delivered in this country. And the percentage of first-time buyers has been steadily increasing from about 25% of all purchases in 2015 to just under 40% in July 2025. And the latest data is indicating further increases. So first-time buyers continue to make the largest contribution to the mortgage market, accounting for 63% of approvals. And so, notwithstanding high prices, and they are too high in my view, first-time buyers are getting opportunities to buy. So there's about 119,000 first-time buyer mortgages drawn down since 2020 to the first quarter of 2025. We need more supply, Deputy, is the key. And the National Development Plan outlines the enormous government expenditure that will ensue over the next number of years. The budget will also be supportive of housing, but we do need more private sector investment in housing as well.
Connolly. Sorry, excuse me, Deputy Jennifer Whitmore, you're right.
Taoiseach, in January of this year, Storm Éowyn hit Ireland and left the country absolutely reeling. We were not prepared for it, and the havoc that it left on communities was devastating. So 750,000 people were left without power, and it cost over 300 million to deal with the damage. And we were actually quite lucky in that storm because it could have been a whole lot worse. Now, the Climate Change Advisory Council today have been quite critical of your response. I mean, at the time you promised that you would prepare Ireland for any future storms, and yet we still haven't seen the promised report on the cross-government report on response plans. We still haven't seen things like emergency hubs and the structures for getting those up and running quickly. So, Taoiseach, how are you ensuring that if a storm like this hits again, and the chances are it will, how are we going to be prepared, and how will local communities be able to deal with it?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
That review is going before the Emergency Development Forum. I think that's imminent. I met with many of the groups after Storm Eowyn, Irish Water in particular. They undertook to immediately procure additional generators for quite a number of facilities and plants where there hadn't been generators prior to or during Storm Eowyn. That's one practical step that we can do. We've also undertaken to resource various community-based groups and centres so that there would be one focal point in every area in the event of a storm like this again, that would have the necessary generator capacity, that would have the various resources and amenities available for people in a given area to access in the event of being cut off electricity or hot water or water in general, or indeed connectivity through communications and so on. And I've also the Agriculture, Department of Agriculture, Department of Climate and Energy, in other words, ESB and farming and all that, to get proper corridors.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Catherine Connolly.
Free corridors in respect of trees and so on.
Deputy Catherine Connolly.
Taoiseach, over 2 weeks ago I raised the very positive proposal by government, a policy directive to ban vessels over 18 metres from fishing within the 6-mile limit. You promised to get back to me. I realise you're very busy. However, 2 weeks have lapsed and the policy directive is to become effective on the 1st of October. I can see no sign of the policy directive. I very much welcome it, but given that the last time that this was discussed was 2018 and because of various court cases it wasn't implemented, we have a new policy following an extensive consultation. Can you tell me, will the directive, can I find it? Tell me where I'll get it. And is it to become operative from the 1st of October this week?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
It is, but I will get the most up-to-date for you and communicate it to you directly. That's okay.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
Sorry, in the one second there. No.
Okay.
Yeah, from the 1st of October, trawling activity by fishing vessels over 18 metres in length overall inshore waters inside the 6 nautical mile zone will be prohibited. No, that's that's the policy. I mean, which you prohibit from the 1st of October. And it says here a limited total allowable catch of 2,000 tonnes of spat will be permitted for vessels over 18 metres on overall inside the 6 nautical miles and inside baselines from October 25 to 30 December 26 only. And then the story in terms of the extensive public consultation that happened prior to this decision being taken, and 5,000 submissions had been received, and 94% of those submissions wanted to see a new ban on trawling activity. I've been pursuing it myself with the respective ministers on this to get this decision.
Thank you. Deputy Michael Collins.
Taoiseach, after 27 years of frustration, Iscairn has finally been held accountable following a case brought by the EPA. They were found guilty on both charges for breaches of their wastewater licence at Shannonvale Park, Clonakilty yesterday and fined €4,000. This is a major step forward. It recognised the environmental damage done to Shannonvale Park and to the River Argadine to Clonakilty, a vital local waterway. It also highlights the need to protect water quality near Jones's Bridge, which supplies drinking water to thousands across West Cork. But Taoiseach, I must ask, if this were a farmer, would the EPA wait 27 years while raw sewage leaked into the gardens and local rivers in Shannonvale, Clonakilty? No. The farmer would have been fined and put out of business within weeks. And why are the EPA not holding Iscairn accountable in Dunmanway, Rosscarbery, Ballydehob and Goleen, where raw sewage is pouring into the rivers? Now that accountability has finally arrived, what is the plan? What action will be taken to restore Shannonvale Park, protect the Argadine and ensure proper water infrastructure for future generations?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
I think it's very disturbing. I think the Irish water should have the highest standards, and something like this should not be occurring. Now, in recent months, Iscairn had been accessing the feasible options for addressing the primary issue, relating to the 9 terraced houses and associated septic tank and percolation area in Shannonvale Park. And the option is to establish a pumping station and transfer flows across the river towards the Clonakilty wastewater network. That's now being progressed. This will involve the requirement to purchase land, establish way leaves, apply for planning permission and completing the required wastewater discharge authorisation reviews. 2 local legacy developer provided infrastructure wastewater treatment plants will also be included in this project, and projects of this nature take a number of years to deliver. Funding has been allocated to develop the detailed designs for this project and progress through the statutory consenting processes, and we keep in touch with and pressure on Iskerin to make sure this happens.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Tony McCormack.
Count Corla. Taoiseach, earlier this year I raised concerns about the capitation grant and was told it would be considered in the upcoming budget. With that budget now approaching, I want to return to the issue. I've been speaking with school leaders across Offaly, including Bracton National School, Sculmore in Tullamore and Offaly School of Special Education. They're managing rising costs with a grant that simply hasn't kept pace. Fundraising is now covering essential, not extras, and that's not sustainable, and it's pulling teachers and principals away from the core should be on students. I'm asking the government to take this seriously in the upcoming budget to increase the capitation grant and begin work on a more sustainable long-term model for school funding.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
Thank you very much, Deputy. I think you've made a very fair point. Obviously, there are pressures on budgets all over. There are ongoing discussions between the respective ministers and the Minister for Public Expenditure right now. But we are conscious of the pressures on schools in respect to capitation and the need for longer-term sustainable funding to deal with increased costs all around.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Willie Aird.
Taoiseach, the Irish tillage sector is in crisis. 2 weeks ago, I attended a meeting of over 1,000 farmers in Naas. They gathered not to protest, but to plead for the survival of the tillage sector. Their message, Taoiseach, was loud and clear. They cannot continue without urgent targeted financial support. Poor grain prices, soaring input costs, reduced margins, regulation and the flooding of the Irish market with non-EU cereals are pushing Irish grain growers to the brink. Teagasc has confirmed tillage incomes will again fall in 2026. That, Taoiseach, is not a warning, it's a forecast for collapse. Farming organisations are united in calling for a 60 million per annum support package for the next 5 years to be delivered in the budget 2026. That 60 million was promised in our election manifestos. The 60 million for the next 5 years is a lifeline for the survival of the tillage sector. Without immediate and substantial commitments in the upcoming budget, many tillage farmers will be forced out of the sector. Taoiseach, you gave a commitment in your election manifesto and in the programme for government to back tillage sector. We cannot accept the demise of the critical part of Irish agriculture. We cannot let this essential sector go the way of sugar beet. The upcoming budget is the next time to act before it's too late.
Thank you,
and Taoiseach, can I ask you, if this needs money from Jack Chambers as well, it should be put into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for raising what is a very important issue. I fully acknowledge that the Irish tillage sector is under significant pressure. I would have met with some at the recent National Plumbing Championships and also met with the IFA in respect to the issue, met with the ICMSA also and other organisations. Substantial support has been allocated by government, about 32.4 million under the Tillage and Horticultural Support Scheme in February of this year. Minister Hayden announced that. The budget for protein aid has increased to 10 million annually from 2024, with an overall common agricultural policy allocation of 47 million. The straw and cooperation measure has an allocation of 50 million over 5 years. Approximately 66,000 hectares of cereals and oilseed rape straw were submitted for chopping and incorporating in 2025. And all farmers will be paid who have applied under the scheme this year. And then there's other schemes. Farming for Water EIP, the Tillage Capital Investment Scheme, ACRES, and the Organic Farming Scheme. Yes, however, there are issues.
Thanks, Taoiseach. You can have to go back to the Deputy. Catherine Callahan. Deputy Catherine Callahan. Deputy, your time is up. Taoiseach, please resume your seat. The time is up.
In advance now, Deputy.
Taoiseach, your time is up.
Your ministerial colleague would be happy if I announced the budget in advance.
Deputy Catherine Callahan. Deputy Catherine Callahan.
Very good.
Deputy Aird, your time is up. Deputy Callahan.
Very good, Claire. Taoiseach, Carlow Town is a vibrant and expanding university town, and to sustain and build upon that status, it is essential that the student experience in Carlow is supported by the provision of adequate student accommodation, a key commitment outlined in the programme for government. The proposed upgrade of Mortestown wastewater treatment plant is the key to unlocking the provision of student accommodation in Carlow, as the upgrade would deliver capacity for a further 22,000 units. This plant upgrade would not only ensure more student accommodation is developed for our thriving university SETU, but it would also improve water quality in the River Barrow. This is a matter of matching local ambition with political will. So my question, Taoiseach, is, will you please commit to doing everything you can to ensure Uisce Éireann prioritise the upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant in Mortestown, County Carlow?
My understanding is that Carlow County Council have made a submission, I think, to Irish Water. I don't know how recent that has been, but obviously we've allocated substantial funding now to Irish Water. The government has, and Minister Chambers did in respect of the National Development Plan. So we'll engage with Irish Water in respect to this particular proposal.
And apologies, Deputy Darren O'Rourke, whom I missed.
No problem at all. Taoiseach, there's a group of elderly people outside the Dáil at the minute, and they're on hunger strike. They're on hunger strike, a group of elderly people outside the Dáil. They're survivors of institutional abuse. And they have very modest requests in relation to access to a HAA medical card and access to a pension. These are requests that were refused during the discussions on the recent legislation by government. There are concerns for this vulnerable group across the political divide, I think, but also by the Special Advocate and by the Justice for Magdalene group. I've written to the Minister for Education, my party leader has done the same. Can I ask you, as Head of Government, will you engage with this group of people and encourage the Minister for Education to do the same, to come to some resolution?
Thank you, Deputy Chair.
My understanding is the Minister for Education has met with representatives of the group, I think, yesterday, or representatives of the group. Obviously, I'd ask people to come off the hunger strike. You know, it's difficult for the survivors concerned to be on hunger strike, and it can have health implications. So government will engage, and I would hope that people could come off the hunger strike.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Cathal Crowe.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. Taoiseach and Minister Jennifer Carr McNeill, last year here in the Dáil Chamber and at the Oireachtas Health Committee, I led calls for there to be an independent review into the access to emergency care in the Midwest region. That review, led by HICWA, has concluded a whole host of recommendations before government now, but I think one of the key ones is that there's a need for short-term beds to be accelerated and increased, but on the long term, people need an access to a better hospital system. Can I make the case in the strongest possible terms that option C, which is before government, i.e. to have a new Model 3 hospital, will be based in County Clare? The evidence is there in abundance. Of all counties in Ireland, of all regions, we are the most health disadvantaged in the country. We are geographically peripheral for more than half of our population. There is no golden hour. They live well beyond it. Friends of Venice Hospital, led by Angela Calder, chairperson, have made the case repeatedly, vociferously, and I thank you, Minister Carr McNeill, for listening to many times over, and Stephen Donnelly before you. The case is there in abundance. There are many sites that are accessible to all of the Midwest.
Minister Jennifer Carr McNeill,
and I ask that
respond.
the failures of 2009 be put right once and for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I thank the Deputy and indeed many deputies who have raised this issue with me. The HICWA report was published by HICWA just this lunchtime. It is a very comprehensive report, 1,200 pages, looking back into the demographic issues in the area as well. It gives three options. The first two are loaded in terms of giving acute beds in the hospital, and the third option, C, is the longer term option of a Model 3 hospital. HICWA themselves prioritise option A and B as being meeting the needs of the people in the most immediate term, and say that option C, the Model 3 hospital, would take a very long time, cost a lot, and not meet the needs in the interim period. So in the first instance, I'm pleased to say that 96 beds are going to open this week into next week, and we will be there to formally open them in October, and the other 96 beds, we're hoping the planning permission will come through for those very, very shortly, and our first priority is making sure that, as HICWA analysed, the most important thing is the inpatient acute bed deficit in Limerick Hospital. That has to be our first priority.
In July, your government blocked 33 Palestinian children and their coaches from taking part in a GAA tour of Ireland for over 100 host families and communities nationwide who had raised funds and planned their welcome. Your Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan and the Taoiseach Simon Harris told us that the reason was insufficient documentation, but we now learn through freedom of information that justice officials were mainly concerned that Israel wouldn't let them return or that there was a risk of overstay. I believe that the Taoiseach and the Justice Minister should apologise to the House for misleading it, but I'm asking you, Taoiseach, would you ensure that future visits are not blocked in this way and that Israel's threats does not dictate Irish visa policy?
Well, first of all, the ministers were very clear in acting good faith, and the Minister of Justice was clear that there wasn't sufficient documentation. And I would say to you, Deputy, that in any future visits they should be properly organised well in advance, and there should be engagement with the national sporting authorities of any particular code of sport, and also then with government well in advance of the submission of any applications, so that we can avoid any sort of issues that may that emerged as in this occasion. So I think that's might be one way of avoiding what transpired the last time.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Charles
issues
Ward.
of minors on a company.
It's a disgrace we're now facing into October. Legislation regarding the retrospective payments for homeowners on the defective concrete scheme still has not been published, despite your Housing Minister in June saying it would be. I expect the funds will be made available in your budget next week, and if you fail to properly address this crisis yet again, Taoiseach, you will have failed the impacted homeowners once again. In July, I informed you that the houses in Elm Park, Buncrana, are facing immediate dangers. These houses were built with defective concrete and built in a floodplain. In response, you assured me that Minister Boxer-Moran and Minister O'Sullivan would be visiting the residents over the following week, which they failed to do so. But I understand that the meeting took place and a decision has been made in relation to this. Taoiseach, will you inform the residents of the Minister's decision and end the miseries and uncertainties for these families?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
First of all, the legislation is on a priority publication list. It has been worked on very intensively. And hopefully, given that it's on a priority publication list, we'll see its publication shortly. It dials back 2 weeks. And work has been underway for quite some time. I'll consult with Minister Morden in respect of any communication to you in respect of this issue.
Just a day. Thank you, Deputy Owen Kenny.
Count Corla, Taoiseach, you raised the possibility of using bespoke legislation to ensure a major sewerage scheme for Dublin does not face further delays. You said we cannot tolerate any more delays. What about our own county of Cork, I would ask Taoiseach? I'm sure similar to my office, your office is inundated with housing needs. In July, 5 homes commenced building in Cork City. The city's monthly commencement average is 10 times lower than last year's. While I appreciate figures for Cork County are not as bad, Cork County is still well below last year's monthly commencement average. Significant issues are arising constantly in relation to infrastructure, sewerage, access to water, planning applications. So I would ask you, would you commit, Taoiseach, to introducing bespoke legislation for Cork to ensure major infrastructure schemes are introduced and progress to allow the building of homes to commence and not have it further delayed?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
Since, there's been quite a number of very large commencements now in Cork City. Greenfield site, for the old Dairy Gold site, is now commencing, and money has been released for that. The Railway Yard apartments, and so there's been that, and the Docklands, some very significant. Sorry?
No.
They're private. Yeah. Well, what's wrong with that?
It's not back and forth, Deputy, and we're out of time,
I will
Taoiseach.
come back to you again, maybe we'll discuss
Appreciate that. Now, we have 2 deputies remaining. I'm proposing 30 seconds each and then a response from the Taoiseach. Deputy Liam Quaid.
Taoiseach, I visited CDYS in Mitchelstown on 2 occasions recently, and I was hugely impressed by the work they do with young people, not just from North Cork, but also from parts of County Limerick and County Tipperary. They also work closely with young people from the asylum-seeking and refugee community living locally. The staff exhaust all grants available to them to maintain an innovative, diverse range of activities. They help young people who are really struggling to fit in or to continue their education, to get back on track in life, and give them a sense of belonging and purpose and connection. So this is really invaluable work, far-reaching in its impact, yet they're operating on a shoestring. Their current staffing is just 1 full-time project coordinator, 1 part-time community employment worker, and 1 part-time youth worker. 25 to 30 young people are attending every day. Taoiseach, CDYS Mitchelstown badly needs investment in more staff. Can your government commit to a significant increase in investment in youth services in the upcoming budget?
Thank you, Deputy.
Can you give assurances that integration funding for Ukrainian young people will remain in place?
Deputy Taoiseach.
There's been very substantial increases in funding in recent years. I do appreciate what you had said in terms of the fantastic work that CYDS are doing in Mitchelstown and in the hinterland. It is a very, very important interventions, providing opportunities for young people to progress. So certainly I will convey your views to the Minister for Education and Youth, Helen McEntee, in respect of the issue that you've raised.
Thank you. Deputy Brian Stanley.
Taoiseach, in 2013 you rounded on Fine Gael here in this House over the proposal to change the triple lock. You said, and I quote, that it would damage neutrality, that it would contribute nothing to international peace. When the Nice referendum was rejected in 2001 and Lisbon in 2008, your government, Fianna Fáil, was in power to give a guarantee to the electorate in the form of a solemn national declaration on neutrality and retain the triple lock in order to get both referendums through. And the declaration, one line in it says, and I quote directly, in line with its traditional policy of military neutrality here, Ireland is not bound by any mutual defence commitments. There's the two declarations. And what I ask you, Taoiseach, is this. Have you forgotten what you stated here in 2013? Are you going to betray the electorate? That was a solemn national declaration by the state, by the people of this state, put together by your government. Are you going to betray the people of the electorate of that state and what they voted for in those two solemn declarations? And is Fianna Fáil going to reject the democratic wishes of the majority of Irish people who want to protect military neutrality?
Military neutrality is protected. It's that the government, we're not members of NATO, we're not militarily aligned. And sorry, and the other second point I would make is this, in terms of the specifics. The world has changed dramatically since 2013. Russia, United States, China have the veto on Irish foreign policy, or not foreign policy. Sorry, let me finish, please. Not on foreign policy, but on any decision we would make to send our Irish troops. But it's kind of interesting, quite a number of Sinn Féin deputies are asking that we send the Irish Navy out to international waters in the Middle East. That would breach the triple lock.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
So, you know, the point is this, that we cannot, Russia should not have a veto over Ireland's decision to participate in peacekeeping.
That concludes
we're
questions.
peacekeepers. That's what we've always been, peacekeepers. That's what we want to be in the future.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
And that's our commitment.
Way over time. We'll conclude.